This is a tutorial about how to use the data validation in Excel, and we'll use the data validation to help us with some formulas as well. Putting this together for my students, but anybody's welcome to follow along. The first thing we're going to do is to create a sheet called lists. And the idea is that you create lists of things that you want to include in a drop-down menu. So I'm going to start off with a list of 10 names, and I would like you to do the same thing. Okay, so I've got my 10 names, and I've given it the title names and a list of 10 names in a column. And what we're going to do first is format the area to make it stand out, and make that color, make that a bit lighter. You can do your own formatting, and I'm going to put all of them into a border. And what I need to do now is actually define this area and actually set it as a list of names. So I'm going to right click after highlighting all of them. Notice I've left out the actual title of the list, and I'm going to come down and define name. Now I don't want to call it Bill. That's not a good name for my list at all, because they're a list of names, not a list of bills. So I'm going to change that to name underscore 01, and I'm going to click OK on that. The next thing I'm going to do is to make a list of numbers, and these numbers can be for anything that you want at all. I'm going to make them a list of days. Say we're doing this for some kind of hotel, and they want a list of days that somebody stayed with them, or anything you want. So I've written the number 1 and 2 because now if I use the corner, I can very quickly drag down, and I'm going to drag down to the number 21, which would possibly represent 3 weeks. And what I want to do is to format this the same way, so I can use the format painter very quickly to make it stand out. So once you've done the same thing, we're going to make a new sheet. You can give this a name as well, and you can call it anything you like. I'm going to call it hotel stays. Okay, so it could be absolutely anything. And what we need to do now is to use data validation to actually create a drop-down list, so we can pick from our list of names and list of days that somebody has stayed. So if I click on the letter B, I'm going to set data validation for the entire column. So data, I'm going to click on data validation and data validation again. And you'll see that there are several different things that you can actually look at, and you can fix the data validation for a cell so that if somebody's filling a spreadsheet in, they cannot put something in that you don't want them to. This can be very useful if you're building a spreadsheet for a client. Now we want to make a list, or choose a list, and we've already created a list. So this source here, if I click on the arrow, click on our lists and highlight the area that we set, you'll notice it says equals name underscore 1. That's the name that we gave the list. Okay, so I can actually use that now to identify, yes, I've got the right area chosen. Okay, then I can then click the drop down arrow here and then click OK, and you'll see now I have an arrow that lets me choose who I want to have from the drop down arrow. Okay, now for this to be useful, we also need to be able to have a title up the top. Now, unfortunately, I've got data validation here, so if I try to write the word name, it doesn't like it. The value entered is not valid. Okay, so what I have to do is actually remove data validation from this cell. It's very quick and easy. Just go data validation and then go back to any value, click OK, and now I can put a title in instead of having the data validation. the data validation still exists down here, it just doesn't up here. Okay, let's use the list of days now for a second column of data validation. So the first thing we need to do again is actually highlight the list of days, right click, define name. Days is okay, but I'm going to add _01. The reason I'm doing that is in case I want a second list of a different amount, I wouldn't be able to use the word days again. So days _01 is a nice way of setting this up, so if I do need future changes, they're easy to make. So I've named my range. I can go back here and do the same thing again. So click on the column C, data validation. We're going to choose a list, and this time the area is the list of days. Okay, click the arrow, click OK, and as we did before, now we can say how long that person stayed in a lovely hotel. Obviously I need to get rid of data validation here, so we'll repeat the data validation, move it back to any value. Okay, and now I can call that column days stayed. Okay, so now we've got a nice little setup where we can very quickly fill in some data, who stayed, how long they stayed, and so on. Obviously this is going to be modified to whatever it is that your client needs, but both of these are nice, quick and easy ways of having different multiple types of things that you can quickly choose from. So for instance, you could have types of dogs staying in a kennel, you could have the amount of a list of staff and the amount of hours they've worked. All sorts of options could be organized in this way nice and quickly.